This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Soonerscoop LASIKs.
3, 2. There's a number. Ooh. 3, 2. There's a new number one in the land. It is the Oklahoma softball team. Welcome back, Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya. Damn it. Now I'm all in my head. Welcome back, Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybylo here from the Soonerscoop.com studios. There is a new number one team in the land in the world of college softball. Oklahoma finishes off a 3-game sweep of Texas over the weekend, and what a weekend it was, Bob. That was amazing. We'll get into the baseball side of things as well. They lose 2 of 3 in Athens, Georgia over the weekend. Really good, 3 really good college baseball games. Just weren't able to get enough on the final game 2 and game 3 in Athens. But let's start with softball. They're the new number one team for the first time in 2025. Softball America puts them up at number one, and it was because of the performance over the weekend. It was a dominant performance, but you also had to squeak out some wins there on the back end. So 7-6, then you had a 7-2, and then you had a 9-8 that got interesting. Oklahoma opening up an 8-0 lead on Sunday at Loves Field. But overall, it seemed like a tremendous weekend to be out at Loves Field.
Tremendous weekend. They set attendance records for a single game, for 3-game series. I know it's only 2 years, but still, you know, the different type of energy with Texas being in town. And I'm torn. I'm really torn on, am I more impressed with what OU did for the 3 days or the way that Texas still cannot figure out
Mike
the
White.
Oklahoma mental hurdle.
He's going to have nightmares of Patty Gasso.
Because they had moments again where it's like Texas doesn't do that. What are they thinking?
Sure.
And it's like it only happens when it comes against the Sooners, and it happened again throughout the course of this weekend. But I mean, Tegan Kavan is an ace until she faces the Sooners. It's like maybe it's just her. She's got to get over this mental block. But, I mean, knocked her around, knocked her out Friday and Sunday. I mean, when you're able to do that against a team's best, I thought going in, like, if Texas could score early, it's not that OU would, like, wilt. Or OU would keep fighting back, but Texas would feel good about itself. Like, okay, like we've got the lead. Texas never had a lead the entire series. Never played from ahead. That's amazing when you consider that, myself included, really thought Texas might be the best team in the entire country, despite the record.
Sure.
I mean, whatever OU's got, the stranglehold over the horns, it continues for yet another season.
4,609 was the single game record that Bob mentioned. The series record for attendance at Loves Field, 13,734, which, again, for the world of college softball, that's just incredible to be able to put that out there. The first number one ranking, should have put this at the front. Oklahoma goes into the final week of the regular season now at 16-5 in conference play. Texas A&M stumbles over the weekend. They lose 2 of 3, so Oklahoma goes into the final week of the regular season in the driver's seat to win the SEC, which is, I guess, just kind of goes within line of everything else this season. We keep trying to kill this team and say, oh, they're not what they used to be, and they're in line. They're the number one team in the country.
They're right there. You talk about controlling your own destiny. They win 2 at Florida, and they've got it. They can maybe literally lose the entire series and still get it, or just win 1 game and still get it. Just that's how perfect these other schools are going to have to be throughout the course of this week. But you could hear the confidence in Patty Gasso. Was like, we are starting to make that climb. We haven't peaked yet. And that's good. It's like, that's great. That's great news. You don't want to peak in March. You don't want to peak in April. You want to keep working toward that ascension point, and we're starting to get there. And, for an offense that this time last month, we're talking about what the heck was going on against Tennessee, and Cassie Pickering and Abby Dayton are playing well, but everyone else looks lost. that is a distant memory. This is an offense that right now is clicking on all cylinders.
Multiple hit games, or I guess double-digit hit games in all three of the games over the weekend. It started on Friday in the 7-6 win. Sam Landry was excellent. She goes complete game for Oklahoma. Gabby Garcia with a solo home run. She was 1 for 3 on the day. But the big one from Alani Agbayani, 3 for 3, had the grand slam and a 5-run third for Oklahoma, and it kind of was a precursor of things to come for Oklahoma offensively throughout the weekend.
Yeah, the power numbers are there. You always go back to what Patty was mentioning February and March. He's like, I thought this team was going to be on speed. I thought we were going to kill people with our speed, but all of a sudden the power came along with it, and it hasn't slowed up. And what Nelly McEnroe, Marinas, and Gabby Garcia and Ella Parker were able to do this weekend is just very, very special, very impressive. Get you excited about what's here to come later. But it's funny because, Friday you go out there and Sam Landry doesn't have her best stuff. I love how she said it. It's like, I don't have my best stuff. I'm going to throw the one pitch that I know, and I'm going to hope it works.
Sure.
I love the honesty there. It's like, I'm going to roll with what got me here because I don't have it tonight. And, she gives up a bunch of runs, but she keeps fighting. She's gritty. She gets complete game. And, you get to 7-6 there in the top of the 7th, 2nd and 3rd, 2 out, gets the fly out. And it's like every single time they just find a way. They're not scared to play that one-run game this season. I mean, that's maybe the biggest thing that you really have taken from this last month. So used to the blowouts and the run rules. Big 12, not named OSU in Texas. Now you come here, you're playing like one-run games almost every single weekend, and OU is ready for it.
Elena Agbayani with the eventual, game-winning RBI there on Friday night, knocking in Nelly McEnroe, who was also 3 for 3 on the night. That rolls into Saturday, and I think that maybe this is one of the bigger conversations to be had.
Yes.
Oklahoma's been looking for that number 2 pitcher, and as of Saturday, Kirsten Deal stepped up, and she was that lady, I guess you could say. Complete game, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 Ks. Not overpowering stuff, but she did just enough to pitch her second complete game against a top 10 opponent.
Yeah, you go into the 7th inning. She's thrown 6 innings, 1 hit shutout. I mean, that was just a next level type of performance from Deal. And that was the one we all circled because we talked to Reese Atwood following Friday's game. I was like, you're down 6-0, but you made it 7-6. You're still feeling pretty good about the weekend,
sure.
Right?
There's a lot to play for.
Texas fight. And then she even said it, Texas fight. Like, all right. So then Saturday, no, just an absolute beatdown, the biggest beatdown of the entire weekend based on score, and just the way that Deal was able to handle such a potent lineup, inning after inning, and then once you get that going, and you just need a couple hits here or there, and Ella Parker just smoked one down the right field line. It's like it almost feels like when OU gets that first big hit, they all exhale. And then they all follow.
Sure.
And as they love to say, they pass the bat. They start passing the bat, and they all start feeling good about themselves, and they're able to put it together. And even though Deal gave up the 2-run homer in the 7th, I thought it was imperative or huge that she got the 21st out, that she got all 7 innings, got the complete game. She had earned it. And a funny phrase that Patty used in describing that post game is like, she's been in the zone before. So Kirsten knows what that's like. If you know what that's like, you can get there again. And she's hoping, obviously, that Kirsten will be there now the rest of the season. I want to see if that will travel. Obviously, her 2 best performances have been at home against Tennessee, against Texas. Now, can she bring that to Gainesville coming up Thursday through Saturday? I assume she'll get the ball Friday. And, can she build off of it? And Tennessee, she didn't. Tennessee, she had that great outing against the Vols and, kind of stumbled the next 2-3 outings. Can she build off of this and really solidify herself as the second starter?
That led into Sunday. Oklahoma obviously trying to go for the 3-game sweep of Texas.
Strangest games I've ever seen.
Senior day at Oklahoma. Bella Smith, Sam Landry, Sydney Saunders honored before the game. Ella Parker opens the game with a 10-pitch at bat that ends with a home run. Gabby Garcia ends the bottom of the 2nd, or her at bat in the bottom of the 2nd with a 12-pitch at bat that ended in a 3-run home run. All of a sudden, you look up, it's 8-0. I'm sure that you're writing a run rule story.
I wrote 450 words, and it was really good, I promise.
You folks will never be able to see it, though, because you had to delete as Bella Smith starts. She goes 3 innings, and then they hand it off. When it's 8-0, you're feeling pretty good about things. And then all of a sudden, Audrey Lowry, Peyton Monticelli, they combined for a third of an inning, 6 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk. A lot of that, I think all 5 of the runs being charged to Audrey Lowry. And all of a sudden, it was a game.
Oh, yeah. It was a game, and it's like, I don't know if Sam Landry thought after the 3rd inning she would be needed. So I give credit to her
Sure.
for staying mentally sharp. It's 8-0, and Bella's got it rolling. You're like, I don't have to do anything. I just enjoy senior day. I'll go have fun with my parents here later tonight. But, they want, and we know what Patty said. She's like, I've got to do this. Usually you do it in the midweek, when you're at Wichita State,
right?
You're at Tulsa. You see these people get their chances, and you got to know if you can trust them later. It's normally not on such a massive stage like OU Texas, ESPN2, 8-0 lead. And Audrey Lowry, that's 2 back-to-back incredibly rough outings. It's a third of an inning, allowing 8 runs between the 4 runs that she gave up Mississippi State, and then the 4 that happened against Texas. So that is now the work in progress, or like the work to do for Jen Rocha and Patty Gasso. Try to make sure that Audrey will be able to stick with it. Rest it away. You love what Bella Smith has now done in her last 2 outings, so you have confidence there. But as Patty said, and she had no regrets, said it multiple times, got to build a staff. Can't just keep squeaking by. Sam's good on Friday and Sunday, and Saturday, let's hope we can pull it out with some combination of Bella and Kirsten. Got to need every single one of these pitchers, at least for 1 or 2 at-bats. We saw what happened in Game 2 against Texas in the championship series when they used every single pitcher. That's exactly the type of moment she's trying to get them ready for. Almost the ultimate backfire. It didn't work out the way that they wanted to. But as she said, she would do the same thing all over again.
Maybe, just maybe, the better win of all 3 of the games to have the 8-0 lead, give up an 8-0 lead, and then find a way to still win the game. Sam Landry works the final 3 2/3, struck out 5, walked 3. Gave up the 2 runs there in the top of the 5th that tied the game. Oklahoma was able to come back, get a sac fly from Isabella Emmerling in the 6th inning to retake the lead.
That was a mess,
ultimately
too.
Win 9-8.
For people that is bases loaded,
sure,
0 outs, and to sac fly, and Tia Malloy just had a brain fart. I don't know.
Yeah, so she didn't tag up. Is that basically what happened?
She's off the base.
Yeah.
It's almost as if she went halfway. She saw it's going to be caught, and it's almost as she's going back to second, she never touched it again. And it's like, she's out. Like, I know they're going to appeal. She's out. And then Abby Dayton hits the fly ball that would have drove in another run instead. So those, as Patty said, they made a few mistakes this weekend that they got away with. And so obviously they want to clean up their own stuff. But, hey, they've gone from a fringe, which makes no sense, the RPI. We know.
You're going to stand like JT Gasso. I think he's ready to fire the RPI into the sun, which they are number
goofy.
3 now.
Exactly what I was going to say. They went from a fringe host, which like what? They're like 9? How are they 9? What?
Sure.
That makes no sense. Now they're number 3. Now there's no doubts at all. Like and Florida's 2. So now you're going on the road against the number 2 team. So you could just tack on more points in that department. But I mean, just incredible weekend, and they again rounding into form at just the right time.
As you said, Florida on the horizon for the final regular season game of the final regular season series of the year. 41-11, only 12-8 in conference play. So don't be fooled by SEC standings here. As Florida, they certainly are a very good opponent, and you're going to have to go on the road and probably somewhat like Oklahoma. They're trying to find themselves before the SEC tournament in Athens next week.
And just a weird way the schedule worked out. They're the Saturday through Monday because they're at LSU tonight.
Sure, interesting.
So they beat LSU. They put it on them Saturday. Okay. They lost to the Tigers Sunday.
So we have a rubber game on Monday night.
The rubber game tonight, and then just 2 days. Well, first they got to fly back, and then they got OU on Thursday. So tough.
It's weird.
That's a weird little schedule the way that worked out. Is Rothrock 100%? I think that's just been, it feels like she's back to where she needs to be, but obviously that's going to be imperative for them. And because if they were to lose, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't even matter if they swept. I don't even think they could tie OU at that juncture. So just the way OU almost eliminated. I hate to say that. Almost took away all the drama of this final weekend.
Right.
Because we all thought. I thought Texas would take 2 of 3.
Sure.
And then just a log jam of these teams in the rankings with Tennessee and the Aggies and Texas and OU, and instead now it's like, well, unless OU falls flat on their face, the Sooners are once again going to be at the top in the regular season.
Oklahoma now 15-4 against top 25 opponents. Obviously, first place in the SEC at 16-5. So yeah, it's kind of incredible that we're back here talking about Oklahoma circling in on a SEC championship in its first season. Going to be fun to see how they're able to end the season in Gainesville, and then obviously next week at the SEC tournament in Athens. So they do it on. I'm not
going to Devon Park. What?
They do it on site, right on campus, and it's single elimination, much like the basketball tournament, much like the baseball tournament. Double buys for the top 4, 5 through 8 get the single game buys, and then everybody else is going to fill in the rest.
That's gonna be a strange week because, as well, if your ace doesn't have it on one night or some hitter on the opposing team is just going nuts, because it's not double elimination, it's not a 2 of 3 series,
right?
It's one game.
Yeah.
So you might have like a 6 versus a 4 in the championship, and you would yeah, that sounds about right, because that's how deep and loaded that conference is.
The good news is when you come back after the SEC tournament in Athens, you come back and everything else is going to be run through Norman.
There you go.
Regional, super regional, and then obviously Devon Park for the Women's College World Series. Oklahoma, I think we could say, expected to defend
we're there again.
4-time national
We've
championship.
reached that point.
OU baseball in Athens. Speaking of Athens, Georgia, they were taking on the Bulldog baseball team over the weekend. Kyson Witherspoon was excellent in the opener. Oklahoma wins 8-6, and really able to get out of it without really too much trouble. You're up 8-1 in going into the 8th inning, and then a error opened the pathway, a gateway for Georgia to get back into the game. Dylan Crooks was able to close it out. Kyson Witherspoon, though, I don't think that people realize he went 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. Against that lineup, that's about as good as you're going to see it from anybody in the country. And then you got into the weekend. Friday, Saturday, obviously. Thursday, Friday, Saturday was the series. Oklahoma loses 9-8 on Friday. They get down 9-2. Had
make that comeback.
A big comeback to try to get back into the game and just couldn't get over the hump. They had the tying run on base in the 7th and the 8th. And you saw that again on Saturday in a game that you lose 6-3. You're up 2-1 going into the 6th inning. A Dawson Willis throwing error that we can talk about here in a second kind of opened the door, the pathway for a 3-run bomb in the bottom half. And then it was 4-2, and all of a sudden you were fighting back uphill.
And then we have to start with Dayton Taki.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Unbelievably terrible situation for Dayton Taki on Thursday night. He goes 4 for 4, had 2 2-run homers, had a RBI single in the 8th inning, and as he's sliding into second base in the 8th inning of what basically was a blowout at the time, has just a freak injury, a hairline fracture in his left ankle, had to be removed from the game, certainly got carried off of the field, and then, Friday morning you see him in a basically a boot on crutches.
Yep.
And so the good news, there's good news and bad news. Obviously, the bad news is he's going to be done for the regular season. You lose your first baseman. You lose a guy that had been kind of a key cog of that entire offensive resurgence over the last couple of weeks. I guess the good news on all of that bad news would be it hasn't been ruled out of him not playing in the postseason. So
Saw that.
You're probably about a month away. I think you're probably going to be pushing it. I would be a little surprised if they were able to get him back, and then you kind of get into the conversation of just throwing him back in there after having not played or had any at-bats for a month. Certainly a bad situation for him. You're going to look at Sam Christensen. He got the 2 starts at first base on Friday and Saturday. Easton Carmichael can play a little bit of first. They put Braden Horton in as a defensive replacement on Thursday night. I don't think because of what he hasn't been able to do with his bat, you want to put him into the lineup every day. So I think it's going to be Christensen or Easton Carmichael there. But yeah, just a terrible thing to happen to Dayton Taki on a night that he was having a career night. He had 5 RBIs. He had 4 hits in the game. Just sucks.
So that'd be a way to get Easton, Mudler,
yeah,
without having to fight
sure.
it.
You could. And I think that's going to be interesting. Easton ended up catching the final 2 games of the weekend, and it's going to be interesting because Scott Mudler did have he went 2 for 4 on Saturday in the finale, had 2 doubles, got him back in the game, had 3 RBIs. So you want to keep him in, and you want to give him some some at bats here moving forward. It kind of is unfortunate with the news on Tuesday night that Oklahoma's final midweek game of the year is going to be canceled because of weather. So now you only have the 3 series left on the weekend, right? You have Ole Miss coming into town to Norman on the weekend. This weekend, you go to Lexington, and then you finish up with Texas, who looks like they could be the best team in the country, undoubtedly, after sweeping Texas A&M over the weekend. They have a 5-game lead in the SEC standings
Lord, I
right
don't
now.
know.
Yeah, they're really, really good. But yeah, and then the other thing that I would bring up just from the weekend, and I think that it's not so much concerning because it's baseball and it's going to happen from time to time, but the top 4 in the lineup were not good over the weekend. We talked about the opportunities that you had in the Friday game and then the Saturday game. In both of those games that you lose, you left a combined 18 on base in those 2 games from 4 guys. Trey Gamble, Jackson Willis, Easton Carmichael, and Sam Christensen, all guys that you would think
you count on.
That's who you want.
Yep,
that's
exactly.
who you want up at the plate and run producing situations. They go 1 for 16 on Saturday in the finale. As a whole over the weekend, they went 6 for 46 with 11 strikeouts and the 18 left on base. They did walk 12 times, so I can't say that they weren't getting on base, but the bottom of the lineup was certainly doing its part. Kyle Branch had 5 hits over the weekend, which is good news. He had been scuttling a little bit. And then Dawson Willis had 5 hits as well. He had a career day in the Friday game with 4 for 5, 3 RBIs, had 2 doubles. So it was the bottom of the lineup that was doing all your kind of heavy lifting offensively over the weekend.
Missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
I know. I'll tell you, now we're actually getting to the thick of it where I can ask every single week.
Sure.
How's that affect being a top 16, being a host?
Right now, I think that they're out. And I think that, if you were trying to, at the beginning of last week, if you said that they had to win probably 3 of their final 4 series to really put together a resume that would give you a possibility of being one of those bottom end host teams, you kind of, you misstepped this week, right? You missed out. You lost 2 of 3. Now you got Ole Miss, Kentucky, and Texas. If you can go win all 3 of those series, maybe even get a sweep against an Ole Miss and a Texas, maybe you bolster that resume. All of a sudden, you're back into the top 5 of the SEC. As it stands now, you might end up in 9th, and you probably won't be able to host in that regard. So every game is going to be important. I mean, obviously, when Kyson pitches on that first game of the series, wherever you may be, whether it be in Norman or Lexington, you feel pretty good about it. Kate Crossland was not good in the second game of the series. I actually thought Malachi Witherspoon probably had his best outing of his Sooner career, even in a loss. The 4 runs that he was charged with, only 1 was earned. 3 of those coming after the error from Dawson Willits. And that kind of leads into like the final point with OU baseball is they got to clean it up defensively. Dawson Willis has 9 errors. Jackson Willis has 5 errors. Kyle Branch has 7 errors. That's 21 errors, from your 3 prominent infielders. You're going to lose games against any of these SEC teams, let alone getting out of conference play and into regionals and things like that. So they got to clean it up. And, the Dawson Willis error in the opener, it didn't truly come back to cost him, but it did lead to a 5-run 8th inning. And if you didn't have that 8-1 lead, who knows how that game ends up. And then obviously on Saturday, the throwing error kind of opens the gates. You were able to get the first 2 guys on. Witherspoon comes back and strikes out the next 2 batters, but you're not able to get out of it because of the Brennan Hudson 3-run homer to center field. So kind of frustrating, but that's kind of been the story of the year for Oklahoma. I just don't think that you could label this team as a very good defensive team.
Yeah, you're hoping maybe the initial month or so, okay, then you start to really figure it out. It's just not coming together.
The crazy thing is, I think a lot of it has been on throwing errors from Dawson Willits, and I don't know if that was something. He won the Gold Glove at the D2 level a year ago at his previous school down in Louisiana. He's making that move from short to third. I don't know if he's still getting used to that, but it's at the same time probably unacceptable if you're starting in the SEC and you can't make the throw across. So it hasn't been a big deal, but when it has, it seemed like it's cost Oklahoma. They were pretty good out of the bullpen this weekend. Jamie Hitt and Jason Bowden come in on the Saturday game, give up back-to-back solo shots. But I think if you went into the weekend and said you were going to give up home runs to the number 1 team in the country and hitting home runs in Georgia, if you could limit them to solo shots, you'd feel fine with it. They weren't able to do so in the 2 losses, though. They had the 2 on the back end, but the 3-run bomb from Brennan Hudson, the biggest difference in the game. And the 5-run second inning on Friday when you're digging yourself a 9-2 hole that you can't dig out of, was a lot of it because walking guys. You walk the first 2 batters, you hit a guy, you hit 2 guys in the inning, really. So that's 4 free bases or free passes for 4 different guys that Georgia was able to take advantage of. And I think you know damn well in the world of baseball and softball, you give up free passes to really good lineups, they're going to make you pay at some point.
Looking ahead to the Rebels, what sort of scouting report here?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's Ole Miss. As per usual, they're really, really good. And, they're probably not a Texas like you have coming in town in 3 weeks, but Ole Miss right now is sitting just above you in the standings at 12-9 in conference play, 31-13 overall, and I think that they're probably exactly what you would expect. Really good Friday night guy. They kind of middle things in with Saturday and Sunday, and a really good offense. So Oklahoma's going to have to play well if they want to get through the weekend and win a series. And I think if you just can't focus on trying to sweep series, just
Correct.
win games, win innings, you'll be fine in the end and kind of see where everything stacks up. Because right now you have Texas obviously at 19-2, Arkansas and LSU at 14-7 in conference play, and then from Tennessee all the way down to Kentucky at 10-11, you basically have 3 games separating 6 teams. So everybody's going to be kind of scoreboard watching here as we make into the final 3 weeks of the regular season of baseball. It's kind of crazy that we are already at the end
here
for softball and at the somewhat of the end for college baseball. So that's going to do it. That is your Stickball report. Thanks to Bob. I'm Eddie. We'll see you back here next week for another Stickball report on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.